Main Street Media Utah, this is Talk with John. I'm looking forward to being with you for the remainder of the 2 hours, roughly from 4 to 6. I'm going to be introducing my guests here in just a minute, but this is Main Street Media Utah. Look forward to being with you for the next 2 hours. You can reach us on our website, KMMU. It's either .com or .org. Rumble, our YouTube station, and also our website, as well as X or Twitter. We have the ability for you guys to watch this. So when this isn't completely done, we will post it so people can view it that are not able to view it live. Also, we will have the opportunity to take phone calls in the first hour. My call screener leaves me at 5 o'clock. So look forward to being with you for roughly the next hour and 50 minutes. But date is June 11th, 2024. I'm your host, John, of Talk with John. And I want to, as I like to do before I get rolling on things, I want to give out my show prayer and my show mantra. This is what I do to keep, I'm a sinner, I'm a heathen, and I'm a hypocrite. But when I do my show, this is what I try to keep in mind. I hope my show is a gift back to my forefathers, the founding fathers, and may it be an acceptable token to our Father above. Show prayer, real quickly. I guess I should have said no need to bow your head, close your eyes. I don't know if my guests did. But the show mantra, where there is liberty, there is the Spirit of Christ. Where the Spirit of Christ is, there will be liberty. And the greater the Spirit of Christ, the greater liberty will be. Today, I have two candidates running for state auditor that will be joining me. I have a list of questions. They've both agreed to come on. I am going to have one of them. They gave me a number between 1 and 10 before the show, beginning of this show, and I'm pulling up on my phone just to make sure I got their numbers. I did, and I know who won. So, but first, I want to say thank you to both of them coming here. The state auditor is, to me, probably the most important race that nobody really knows a lot about. This is a very important position. It's in control of money. They have the ability to audit. And so I believe on the state, county, and city levels, and maybe even some other municipality levels that I might be leaving out. But very important for you to get to know, because most likely the winner of the Republican Party will wind up being the state auditor for the state. Bet it's been a long time since the Republican Party hasn't won that. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on both Ricky Hatch and Tina Cannon. They will be joining us. They're joining us here live. Both of them have things they need to get to right about 6 o'clock. So this will be ending at 6. So there was a quote unquote guessing of a number between 1 and 10. Tina guessed 8, Ricky guessed 5, and the number was 6. So we're going to go with Ricky first. All right. So I'm going to go with, after I ask that question, please give your bio as part of it. So the first question, and my questions disappeared on me. There we go, on another screen. Okay. So Ricky, and we're going to go with this. We're going to be about 3 minutes for each one of you on this question, probably going after. We're going to try to keep it to roughly 1 minute. I'm not going to be totally tough on this. So first question up is Ricky and Tina, first, Ricky, what qualifies you for this office?
Well, first off, thanks, John, for asking us to be on this. We really appreciate it. It's crucial to have this conversation, especially for, like you said, the most important race that no one's ever talked about. So I'm Ricky Hatch, obviously running for state auditor, and I am a CPA. I've been a CPA for 26 years. I've been an auditor for 3 decades, and I'm currently serving as the county auditor up in Weber County. So I bring an audit mindset to this office, and depth and expertise as an auditor. But I'm more than that. I'm a husband and father, born and raised in Utah. my career, I got my master's of accounting at BYU, and my career took me to 2 continents and both coasts, where I've conducted IT audits and financial audits and compliance and performance and fraud audits. I also helped implement software for a software company worldwide, a software implementation. And I ran a private school. I took a break from auditing, a very brief break, and started a private school called Kimber Academy that I taught at, I administered, and became the CFO of the chain of Kimber Academies back in the early 2000s. Absolutely loved it. And that helped prepare me for public service. I had never intended on becoming an elected official. However, as I taught these kids the principles of liberty and the importance of civic engagement, I felt a desire, a pinging saying, you're talking a lot, you've got to walk the walk too. And that's when I got involved as a planning commissioner. I got involved with the Republican Party back in 2002 when I moved back to Utah, and have served in all capacities at the Republican Party level, county. I served on the state audit committee for the GOP, legislative district levels, and various other capacities. I absolutely love to serve. I love serving people. I love serving people locally. I have worked with the current state auditor, John Dougal, over the years, collaborating on legislation, on best practices as it relates to finances, particularly with local governments. And I like what he's done, and I want to build upon that and bring to that the level of expertise that a CPA brings. What makes me qualified? It comes down to experience. I live and breathe and drink and sleep auditing. Auditors, after a certain amount of time, you just look at things differently. With that much experience, we don't just look for red flags, we look for pink handkerchiefs. We can identify things that aren't necessarily plain because of the training that we've received and the experience that we've received. So I bring an enormous amount of experience to this, as well as relationships, which I think we'll talk about in a further question.
Okay. Thank you. 3 minutes and 30 seconds there, roughly. Close to maybe 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Okay. So I'm going to do my best to keep a good eye on the clock. All right. So, Tina, same question. What qualifies you for this office?
Well, thank you for having us today, John. It's been nice to have someone reach out to host a debate in a very important race. So I appreciate your willingness to be here, and sometimes it's hard to come up with questions for the state auditor. So I appreciate your efforts here. What qualifies me? So I've spent 30 years in accounting. My background is management accounting, where I was trained to analyze a system, find out where the weaknesses in that system are, and design mitigating controls for that. And from there, I took a specialty in taxation, and I spent over 20 years specializing in tax. How that helps us in the state auditor's office is my specialty is 100% of what we audit in the state auditor's office is tax revenue. So I understand exactly who we got this from. I've sat across the desk from clients for my full career in the private sector and told them how much money they send the state of Utah. And I can tell you that because Utah taxes sales, income, and property in Utah, the majority of Utahns that make under $100,000 a year will send more money to the state of Utah than they will send to the federal government. So I'm passionate that we use that money wisely, carefully, and only for the things that we told them we would use it for. After my kids were raised and I started getting involved in my community, I started getting involved in the Republican Party, and I have been a county chair, vice chair, secretary. I've also been the state credentials chair. And then I was elected to my county council, and I served 2 terms on my county council. And that's when I really got to know the state auditor. I was elected in Morgan County after they'd had an embezzlement of 100% of the general fund by the county administrator. So not only have I seen the importance of the office of the state auditor, I've experienced what it's like to be in a community where the financial controls are lax, and how passionately I would hate to see that happen in any other community. So when I sold my company, John Dougal reached out. He's the current state auditor, and he asked me to come to work with him. And we make a difference every day in the state auditor's office. I'm currently the deputy state auditor, and I'm proud to have earned the endorsement of John Dougal, the current state auditor. And in the state auditor's office, we're over 1,800 agencies across the state. You alluded to that it is state, county, cities, school districts, universities and colleges, right down to cemetery districts and water districts in Utah. So we have 45 people, 37% of the office are CPAs, and we are a lean, mean fighting machine. We have a lot of work that we do in keeping Utah transparent for the taxpayer and making sure that all of those agencies are fiscally compliant and also statutorily compliant. It's been a great fit for me in the office. It combines my two passions, accounting and honest.
Okay, feedback. And I'm not sure if that's our side or whose side that is.
I'm hoping
okay,
it's
clear? Okay, continue. I'll give you another 15 seconds.
So I appreciate the time that I've spent in the office gives me the understanding of what we do, why we do it, and why it's important. But I also am able to hit the ground running even before the election, which is making it more efficient for the taxpayer to just keep going with the way we've done under John Dougal, who has been the most influential state auditor in Utah's history. And I'm proud to have been chosen to work with him, and I'm proud of the endorsement he's given in this race.
All right. Well, thank you. Okay, so that may have gone a little bit, both of you may have gone a little bit over. Please forgive me. So here's what I'm going to do going forward. I'm going to try to hold my finger up, and if I just go like this, you got 1 minute. If we're doing 1 minute questions, that's going to be hard. So, all right, let's do this. Let me ask you this. Give me 1 minute answer. Actually, I'm going to ask you both this question, and this will be a general question. If I understand correctly, it's just not financial auditing you're doing. You have the ability to audit other things outside of finances. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me, in that vein, I'm going to give you 1 minute. Besides auditing finances, what other things do you audit? And I'm going to go, Tina. That's yours to answer first. Go.
All right. So we are over financial compliance and then statutory compliance. And we also do performance audit across the state for all of those agencies. So statutory compliance, probably the most common one people are talking about right now, is in the transgender bathroom bill, and the compliance for those government agencies to have set a plan and to have implemented a plan for how they'll handle safety in public restrooms and facilities across every government agency. But we also look at tax compliance as well. My first experience in the office was an audit over property tax and how it is applied across the state. So that was an audit of the tax commission. And we went through what the statutory responsibilities are for the tax commission and how they are performing under that statute and where they are falling short, and what our recommendations were to make sure that they could become compliant with that state statute.
Okay. Question. Can both of you see the clock that's running?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Ricky, your question, same question. Outside of the finances, you can even hit the finances. What are some of the other things that you would be responsible for auditing? Should you be elected?
Well, my opponent's talked a lot about what the state auditor's office does outside the finances, and she's absolutely correct. That's true. So I'll talk a little bit about what I currently do as the county auditor and the county clerk up in Weber County. Not only do I do financial audits and controls audits and performance or compliance audits, but I have also audited elections for the past 13 years. I have audited the results of the elections and the processing of the ballots. In fact, I was a key part in legislation for a couple of years now, coming up with additional audits that we could do and conduct on our elections at the county level and the state level. I've worked with legislators to have those audits performed. I conduct audits in addition to those IT-related audits to ensure that the systems that are in place at the county are secure and that are protecting the data that is so precious to our citizens, the private data. So those are a couple of the key non-financial audits that I have experience in.
Okay. All right. Next question. Like I said, some questions will have directly to do with your office, some won't. So we've got Ricky, you're up next. So this is a fun one. So it generally I ask the question of why should the current office holder not be in, or why should you stay? Since there's not a current office holder, why should it be you? You've got 1 minute. Go.
I think we're fortunate in this race because we have two good choices. I think it's really a good, better, best kind of decision that we have. And really, the importance is that I bring, and why I feel it's that voters should vote for me is the experience that I bring, 3 decades of audit experience, and the relationships that I bring. Working closely with legislators, working closely with local elected officials, with state leaders. That has always been my mantra, and I've demonstrated that in my leadership positions at the Utah Association of Counties and the National Association of Counties. If you want someone who will come in and work with others and hold others accountable and who isn't afraid to be held accountable themselves, then I would suggest you vote for me. That's what I'll bring to that office.
Okay. Tina, same question to you.
Thanks for the question, John. I feel like my time in the office and actually knowing what we do, how we do it, why we do it, and who in the office does it brings an extra level of expertise to this. I'm also the only auditor in this race with a published audit where the taxpayer or the voter can go out and look at my record and see what kind of work I do. Those are easily available through auditor.utah.gov. I also love the last line in John Dougal's endorsement where he said, Ms. Cannon is an exceptional candidate for the next Utah State Auditor. She has proven herself to have the ethics, perseverance, initiative, and the intellectual creativity necessary to serve the people of Utah. She has the strength and the ability to speak truth to power. And that is so much of what we do in the office.
Okay. You beat the timer. Way to go. All right. So let's do the next one. Next question is what, and I believe this goes to Tina first. Yeah, we might be hearing a motorcycle sound for my timer because that's more about me than it is you guys. Because trying to keep track of everything.
Hey, that might be about me. That might be about me.
Okay. All right. So, well, it should be a cannon going off if it was about you. All right. Most important thing you do as an office holder. Tina, go. In that office, what's the most important thing you do?
You are the ethics officer for the state. So it is your personal ethics. It is your ability to maintain that standard. You are I train the office this summer. I train the office in ethics, and it is primarily our responsibility to be the ethics officer for the state. So that standard and that living up to honesty, integrity is very important for our office. I think that's the most important thing.
Wow. Okay. Ricky, question. Let me restate it. What is the most important thing you would do as the office holder of state auditor? Okay, we are not hearing you at the moment. Ricky, let's try to see if we can. There we go. Thumbs up. Let's go. What is the most important thing you would do as the state auditor? Fire away.
Really, the most important thing for state auditor is transparency and accountability. Realize that's two things, but they're linked. The state auditor's role is not to use audits as a weapon, but to use audits as a flashlight or sometimes a floodlight. You go in, you objectively examine the financial accounts or examine the other areas of the audit according to established professional standards. And then you evaluate the performance, and then you report that. And that allows the citizens to understand what's going on in the various governmental agencies and to hold their elected officials accountable. Accountability and transparency.
Wow, this is awesome. You guys are doing great. Both of you are coming in under the timer. All right, so quick question. Next question. When was the last time you read the U.S. Constitution and the Utah Constitution? I want answers for each. I believe, Ricky, you're up first. Fire away.
I absolutely love this. When I was very first elected as a county delegate, that's the exact question that I would ask the candidates, no matter what they were running for. I read the U.S. Constitution every year on the morning of July 4th. I think it's crucial to have that top of mind whenever we're making decisions. I have my pocket constitution in my backpack with me at all times so I can refer to it. State constitution's a little bit longer. I'm not sure the last time I've read the entire state constitution. Of course, I take a look at it during the legislative session as we're considering bills and talking about those. I would say it's probably been 5 years since I've read the state constitution in its entirety.
Okay, we've got a couple seconds left, so clarification. You said it's 5 years since you read the whole thing, but you're stating that you read from different portions of it every legislative session.
Absolutely, and during the interim, during the non-legislative time as well. I'm always looking to see how that matters.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, Tina, when was the last time you read the U.S. Constitution, and when was the last time that you read the state Constitution?
I have the U.S. Constitution in my office, so I'm kind of cheating. I see it every day. So it sits across from me in my office at home. So I see it every day and read it all the time because it reminds me why I do what I do. Sometimes it's not as easy as it sounds to be in the state auditor's office. So sometimes I need to be reminded. And the Utah Constitution, that's easy. I read it just this week because we had a question over an item that we were looking into. So as part of my job, I've read it quite a bit. When audit in particular, we were looking at a specific section. So I spent a whole lot of time on the Utah Constitution this year over a particular audit we were doing. So I kind of I cheated. It was for work too. It's part of what I do, so.
Okay, once again, coming in before the timer, well done. All right, so next question. Maybe we might have a little bit more room. Let's see. And this is one of those questions where you're going to go, this doesn't have anything to do with the state auditor, at least those that are viewing may. But this is a question that gets asked a lot of times from my fellow citizens, especially on the Republican side. Is it the place for government to have citizens, if there is, say, a 5-10% death rate, is it the place of government to shut down the American public, businesses, and the ability to interact with one another? And I'm also going to throw in, shut down county, city, state buildings.
So me first?
And I guess we go with Tina first.
No, I think we're adults and we can govern ourselves. That's a basic principle of freedom in the United States of America. So I don't believe in shutdowns and automatic shutdowns. I think that if you are worried about your safety, you have the ability to stay home and to not participate, but to make that a mandate is outside of the scope of government. It steps on individual liberties and freedom.
Okay. Ricky, same question to you. If there was somewhere in the neighborhood of a 5% death rate, is it the place for the government, 5 to 10% death rate, is it the place of government to shut down businesses and elected, what would be the proper term? Elected buildings, government building.
Thanks for the question. As specified in the Declaration, the purpose of government is to protect our life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It's not talking about on a global scale. It's talking about individual liberties. The farther government goes away from those specific stated rights and the rights stated in the preamble of the Constitution, the more trouble we're going to get into. I think the government did overstep in multiple ways in the past when they, under the guise of maybe general welfare. And I do not think that the government has the right in these instances to shut down, especially private businesses, and to prevent the peaceable assembly of citizens, particularly in houses of worship. So I agree that that is not a place for government.
You guys need to disagree more.
I'm sure it's coming.
I'm sure it will. All right. So I'm not exactly sure how this applies to you guys. But I'm still going to ask it anyway. And Ricky, you're going to hit this first. Actually, I know exactly how I'm going to apply this. So I'm going to change the verbiage just a little bit here. When a group or person comes to you and asks you to support a bill, how are you going to decide whether you would support legislation? How do you go about making that decision process on whether you will support, which way you will go?
This is a great question, and something that I've been doing for the past 13 years as county auditor. I was selected by my fellow auditors and clerks to represent them at the state capitol, and I've been doing that since about 2015, working very closely with legislators. I tell you, the first thing that I do is I look and say, is this good policy? Does this align with the concept of life, liberty, and property? Is it the proper role of government? That's really the first thing. You have to step back and look at the fundamentals. And then if it's not that, or if it passes that, and then I find other issues, what I do is I talk with the sponsor and say, I'm not sure I agree with the bill. Tell me what you want. In the end, what is your goal? And let's see if we can work there. And as long as we agree on the end goal, generally we can work closely enough to be able to achieve success and get good policy in place that accomplishes what they want.
Okay. For heaven's sakes, my phone.
You're going for a ride.
Yeah, I'm going for a ride. So, same question to you, Tina. When a group or a person or legislators or you decide a bill needs to be run, how do you decide whether you're going to support that bill or not?
So I've also done legislative review committees for the Association of County Council and Commissioners. So I spent a lot of time reading really long legislation. So I have to admit, my first one is, how long is this bill? Do we really need it to be 3,000 lines in order to get it done? It probably should be short, sweet, and to the point. And then I've spent the last couple of years in the state auditor's office also looking at the fiscal impacts of the legislation. So I also am now looking at it from a different perspective over how do we enforce this on a fiscal note side, and also on putting the boundaries on. We run into a lot of legislation in the state of Utah where we're purposely exempting entities from state procurement code, which makes all sorts of problems for the state auditor's office and how money is allocated. So I've gained a new perspective on some of the details in these bills over what the fiscal notes actually mean and how the financial oversight can happen. And then also, there are sometimes loopholes that get in there on statutory oversight and where those fiscal boundaries are for an agency, so that we can make sure that government can stay transparent and to just the limited role of what the government is without going past. So I've started looking really closely at the fiscal details.
We're slightly over a minute here.
Thanks.
We're doing really good on time. So, Ricky, are you fine with, would you like to answer that a little bit longer? And should we give her a little bit chance to answer that a little bit further?
I'm totally fine to give her a little bit more, and I'm happy to add if you'd like.
Go.
So like I said, I look for those fiscal guardrails. It's what we refer to them as in the office, to make sure that those are there. We're seeing what the impact of that is for us on this last piece of legislation that we're dealing with, and not covering the cost of the actual expenses, which creates really huge problems for an agency.
Okay. Ricky, any additional thoughts you want to throw in on that?
Yes, I'm glad Tina brought up the concept of fiscal analysis. I've been doing that also for the past 8 years, and the legislative fiscal analysts reach out and have consistently expressed their gratitude for the depth of research that I do. A lot of these fiscal notes are based off of just grabbing a number out of the air. There's a lot of conjecture and trying to figure out how is this going to cost what, and there's a lot of estimates. And anytime I have to do that, I go and I give them the assumptions, I give them the sources on which I base those assumptions, and I try to make it conservative. Whether I like the bill or not, we need to know how much it's going to cost, and I do my absolute best to estimate those.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to ask you this question. And yes, it has nothing to do with your office in general, but it goes to speak to the nature of the question. And for heaven's sakes, with as aligned as and good, as awesome as aligned as you two seem to be so far, I think it could be a differentiator. What are your thoughts on the woke LGBT progressive policies that seem to be sneaking into this state? And bottom line is, this is a comment that I continually get from both from my fellow delegates, but as well as just Republicans ask this in question. I've had this thought process several times in the last week brought up to me. Let's see, Ricky, you're up. What's your thoughts?
Okay. Well, first off, I think it's important to differentiate between philosophy and people. I think our country is made up of great people and people that we disagree with, and that disagreement is healthy. Now, that doesn't mean that we should agree with the principles. And the woke philosophy, as broad as that comment or as that term is, I generally disagree with what has been ascribed to that. I don't support that. At the same time, people who are part of the LGBT community, they're passionate about that, and I absolutely respect their right to have those desires or those concepts and to have those wishes to have that implemented into state law and to provide those protections. I support their right to speak that out. I also support the right for others to speak against them. So I think the discussion makes for much better government. I disagree with a lot of what they talk about, but I am not going to lump them into this evil group of people that just want to destroy our country.
Okay, Tina.
So this was an interesting assignment I had over the last 6 months, before the 6 months before the legislative session, where we knew that we were going to be the enforcement on the DEI policies, and the state auditor's office is that enforcement. That starts June 1st. So we went back and started doing the research over what that looks like, how deep it is in the university level. I spent a lot of time attending Senate academic Senate meetings and mapping out where the struggle was going to be in enforcement. If you're going to remove DEI from the universities, how deep is it already? And it was a little shocking to me. And my thought on this is, when you're talking about including these concepts into robotics programs that are supposed to be completely blank on skin color, it just is odd. But it's very, very deep into the system. And I see where, even though the legislature's intention was to overturn this, it's so much deeper into the academic world than we fully anticipate. And turning it around, which was the intent of the legislature, is going to be very, very difficult. But the enforcement is in the office. We will follow the code for what is there and exactly how we can remove and what we can remove based on that code.
Okay. Thank you both for answering that question. Let's see. I'm going to ask this. So in the 2016 race for in the 26th race in the primaries for the election of president, do you recall who you initially voted for? In 2016, So that was Cruz. That was Trump. I want to say Rubio was still in, and I can't remember. Frankly, I don't remember who else.
Oh, so you want the primary? So
In
is
the
it
primary? In the primary, yes.
it's my turn first, right? So I was a Cruz supporter.
Okay, Cruz. Ricky?
It's Cruz as well.
Yeah, guess what? I'll raise my hand. We all three fell that question, don't we? All right. And this is just a few more races so people can get an understanding. So back when Senator Romney last ran in the Republican primary, do you remember who you voted for? If I remember correctly, it was Mike Kennedy as well as it was Mitt Romney. I do not recall if others were running. Do you remember who you voted for? Ricky, you first.
Senator Kennedy.
Senator Kennedy?
I did too. Senator Kennedy.
Okay, all right. You answered that both. Okay.
Still have his yard sign.
What's that?
I still have his yard sign.
You still
I collect them. I have quite a collection. But I have that one.
Okay, all right. So 4 years ago, I want to know who you voted for governor. There was Spencer Cox in the primaries. There was Spencer Cox. There was John Huntsman, David Wright.
No,
and,
Thomas
Hughes.
Thomas Wright.
Thomas Wright. Thomas Wright. Thank you for setting me straight. Thomas Wright. Okay, but at least I got Wright in there, okay? For heaven's sakes. All right. So, of those four, do you remember who you voted for? I think, are we Tina now first?
Yeah.
Tina?
Thomas Wright's lieutenant governor was Rob Bishop, and I voted for my good friend and mentor, Rob Bishop.
Ricky, do you recall?
At the convention, I voted for Thomas Wright and Rob Bishop. I believe in the primary, I voted for Spencer Cox.
Okay. All right. Then let's see if I have. All right. So, did both of you go to convention
this year?
This year.
Yeah, we were both on the ballot. Yeah.
Okay. Did you vote? Let me rephrase that. Did you vote at convention?
No.
Okay. All right. So, okay. So, bottom line, this is not going to be an easy one because you're going to have to deal with the consequences of the fallout. Right now, we have Spencer Cox or Phil Lyman. Who is going to be on your primary ballot either by the 25th?
Am
Tina,
I first?
I think you're first.
See, I'm gonna say you can't ask me that because I have to audit both. Whoever wins, we have oversight over the executive branch. I have said from the beginning, so it's not just here, but I have said from the beginning that I don't want anything that I do as an auditor to be impacted by what people knew where my personal feelings on this were. And I have stayed out of all of the endorsements, and I have not reached out and asked for their endorsements either. So I feel like the independence of the office is crucial here.
Okay. Ricky, same question to you.
I'm going to wimp out just like Tina did. I think I know both of those candidates. I've worked with them over the years. They each bring very unique strengths. They each have their own chinks in their armor. And I would look forward to working with both of them and making both of them upset by the oversight of the state auditor's office.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. Wimped out on the question. I will totally agree with that.
Hey,
All
well,
right.
just so you don't think we completely
number 10.
wimped out, I think we both have an affinity for accountants. We'll just put that out there. So.
Okay. All right. All right. So, question number 10. And like I said, a number of these questions are not necessarily specifically pertaining to you. Or to your office, but I'm trying to give the audience an overall perspective of where you've been and where you probably will be on things going forward. Do you believe that January 6th, the people that were the rebel rousers were just Trump supporters? I believe this goes to you, Ricky, first. Is that correct? And A state auditor should help me be able to keep track of this, guys. So I'm asking for your help. Ricky, I think you're up.
Well, first off, the massive amounts of people, not all of the people at January 6th that attended that rally ended up breaching the Capitol and going in. I totally agree that our right to assemble, our right to protest, our right to express our opinion is fundamental to the liberty in this country. Those that went in, I haven't delved into all of the details. Got too much other stuff to do, and I'll let other people worry about that part because it doesn't relate. I suspect that there was a very small group that was extremely well coordinated. Whether that group was pro-Trumpers or if they were separate and anti and wanted to create problems, or maybe both. I just don't have enough knowledge and haven't done enough research to know that. But I do feel that the vast majority of those that breached the Capitol did so with bad intentions, whereas the vast majority of the other people who were there were just there to express their opinions.
Okay. Tina.
So you're asking whether or not I think it was 100% Trump supporters that were there, or there were agitators in the crowd that were encouraging them to go in?
Go for it. That is part of the question.
So that's the question. So yeah, I think there were other people in the crowd. I've seen
January 6th, was it all Trump supporters? January 6th, was it all Trump supporters?
No, there were other people in the crowd besides Trump supporters, but regardless, I think we learned in kindergarten not to follow the guy with the horns. So I don't think they should have gone in, but I do think there was some agitation and some pushing to go in.
Okay. The people at the back, had I seen the doors open and people going in, I probably would have gone in had I been there. Because I don't know that, because yeah.
You probably wouldn't have been able to see the horns from the back of the crowd.
Yeah. Your people in the back didn't know that they were not supposed to go in. I'm going to throw that in. That's my own 2 cents. Thoughts on national debt, thoughts on our state debt, which you could say, do we have? Tina, I think you're first.
32 trillion is unsustainable, and it is going to impact our children. It's immoral. It's wrong. And there used to be 2 ways out. You could inflate it, or you could grow your way out. And we're choosing to inflate our way out, which is devastating to anyone with children who are trying to afford to buy a home, even, or to keep up with the basic cost of living for anyone in middle America. So just absolutely wrong. As far as Utah's debt, we do bond, and we have oversight over those numbers. For the most part, we're very fiscally responsible in the state, but we do go into a lot of bond debt for buildings. I'd probably encourage us to stop building quite so much. But then again, I look out my office window at the new building at the Capitol and see the imported Italian marble. So I might have a little bit different view on how much money we should spend on the Capitol building.
Okay, so we've got our Ricky. The question goes to you. Thoughts on national debt and our local debt?
Well, I believe that debt is bondage. Now, sometimes you have to do it, like Tina mentioned, when you have infrastructure or large things, large projects that cost a lot, you've got to be careful, but you need to take advantage of that. That's the most fiscally responsible thing to do. On the national level, it's out of control, and we all have to pay the price. We're all going to have to sacrifice, and I hope that those who are closest to retirement pay the least, because they've chipped into the system for so long. But it's the multi-generational bondage that we're in. As far as the state has excellent credit, and that's important. It shows that they're managing their finances. I think the important thing is anytime we are considering borrowing money or spending more than we actually earn, which should be extremely rare. In fact, it's illegal to do it here in Utah for the state government. Anytime we do that, we have to look back at the principles and say, what are we looking for? How does this align with the founding principles? Are we protecting life, liberty, and property? That's the question.
John didn't push the button for the motorcycle this time. Okay. Something came in that the audience, I don't believe, sees. I do believe our guests can see. So our the person, I should have said we will take your calls. If anybody calls in, like right now, pretty much we can take them. We don't have much time. The phone number is 385-899-2134. That's 385-899-2134. If we get anybody to call in and ask a question, they can do it real quick if they can get through our call screener. But our call screener is also our producer. So real quickly, I'm going to give you each one of you 1 minute on how the audience can find out about you and also go about supporting you. Obviously, giving your website out. So, Tina, we'll start with you. You've got 1 minute.
You can find me at tinacannon.com. And how you can help. Right now, it's talking to your neighbors, your friends, and spreading the word. We've encouraged everyone to talk to 20 people and make sure that they have voted, that they've turned in their ballot, and that, of course, they've marked Tina Cannon for auditor on the ballot. You can also email me if you would like to do more than that. If you'd like a yard sign, we're running low on the yard signs, but if you'd like to help in other ways or to go door to door and canvass with us, you're welcome to contact me at tina@tinacannon.com.
And that's where they can go if they want to support you. They can go to tinacannon.com. Is that correct?
That is correct. And thank you for the donation page up. That was nice touch there, John. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Ricky, same question to you, sir. How can people find out about you, and if they want to support you, how they can go about doing that?
They can go to rickyhatch.com. There's plenty of information there, including a link if you want to provide a yard sign, if you want to contribute, and if you want to help in other ways. Also on that website is my personal cell phone number. You can call or text that number. That's my number in my pocket, and I answer that and respond to that. I also personally read and respond to every single email address or email that's sent to me, and that is ricky@rickyhatch.com, as well as those form emails or contact information that is done through the state. If you want to help, you can help with signs, social media, talking with your neighbors. That's what makes our country great, is involved citizens. So thank you.
All right, so let's go with, I do have good timing.
Oh.
Both of you. All right, here's a question by our illustrious Dwayne. The auditor position seems to be a managerial position as opposed to a financial accountant auditing position. What are your management qualifications? You'll be managing a team of auditors. And so I want to know what's your management experience and what qualifies you?
I think it's me, right?
Or is it Ricky?
Oh.
Ricky?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I've been a manager of CPAs starting in the mid-1990s. And CPAs, we're a special bunch. We're a little nerdy, a little quirky, and we have fantastic strengths. But I've been involved in managing teams of CPAs for nearly 30 years. I also managed a team of 42 individuals in over 30 countries, helping with a worldwide software implementation for Parametric Technology Corporation. And I currently manage about 25 individuals as county auditor and clerk. The key thing with management that I bring is a collaborative style and a level 5 leadership style that Jim Collins talks about in his book, Good to Great. You give people the resources they need, and you support them, and you set the direction and tone of the office. And that's what I'll bring to the state auditor's office.
I think you went in a little longer in a minute because I didn't do it. So Tina, did you see how long you went?
No, I'm not paying attention. That's your job, John.
Man, I'm having a hard time. I need an assistant on that. Okay, all right. Okay, Tina, same question to you.
So I've spent 30 years running my own company and managing people and managing clients as well as people. And I've also, in county government, the executive branch is the county council and commission in Morgan County. And so I spent a long time running economic development and dealing with community boards and services. I've been on almost every board along the Wasatch Front Regional. Well, I know I've been on every board at Wasatch Front Regional Council, because in a small rural community, we don't have the staff as the urban counties do. So we have to dig in and do it ourselves. And so I have a deep understanding of government. And then my time in the office, I know everyone really well. And I've been thrilled to be the deputy state auditor and to be over the financial management side and to get to know everyone's personality and how well we work together, and where the weaknesses in the office are and where we need to fill in, and some of the challenges for the office. My management style is one of collaboration and setting a tone and making sure that you have good people and that you're supporting them. That's really the key in our office. As I said, we're 45 to 51 people, 37% are accountants. We also have data analytics, and that is a huge part of Transparent Utah. So it's knowing what our responsibilities are and applying resources accordingly. It's been a thrill to be in the office. It's been really fun.
All right. Thoughts on abortion? I'm going to throw some ones at you, just so you know, both coming up. I'm going to throw some ones at you guys that don't pertain to your office. But like I said, general overall opinions of things. Tina, your thought?
So I'm a mother of 4. I went into preterm labor with all 4 of my kids at 20 weeks. And I spent a lot of time on bed rest during all 4 of my pregnancies. And I know exactly the stage of pregnancy I was, how big the baby was, what the viability of the baby was. So I am a firm believer for myself in a right to life for the unborn, and that abortion is not an option. However, in public policy, I believe in the exceptions for right to rape, incest, and life of the mother.
You beat the timer on that one. Ricky, your thoughts?
I'm sorry, but we're going to be pretty similar on this one. I believe in the right to life. I believe that politically, the decision should not be made by the federal government. That should be left up to the states. And I even question the extent to which states should have that overreach. We have to protect the unborn, but we also have to protect the rights of these couples and these individuals who have heartbreaking decisions to make. I don't have the answer. If I did, I'd probably be running for U.S. Senate. But we just have to keep those rights and the conflicting rights between those individuals in mind anytime we make policy. But generally, that's something that should be left up to the states, and they should tread very carefully.
Okay. Thank you both. All right. Your thoughts on education. And I think let's go to 2 minutes on this one, because it is a little bit longer, and this, you guys definitely will have more involvement in education. If I understand correctly, you will have oversight. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. That is correct.
Okay. Ricky first. Fire away. Your thoughts.
Oh, this is dear to my heart because my wife and I opened up a private academy. This was back in the early 2000s, and we saw the resources that were given to public education. And initially I thought, oh, public ed is just evil, and we have to do homeschooling, we have to do private ed. I've since changed that. I think there's a place for public education, and there is a place for private education and for homeschooling. It depends. It should be up to the choice of the parents and the children and what is best for their family at that time. I think that's crucial. Now, the federal government shouldn't be involved in education really at all, frankly. It's nowhere in the Constitution. The Northwest Passage talks about the importance of states establishing educational priorities and education, providing education to kids. It really is a family-based requirement or a responsibility. However, realize with our population, people need help, and the government can step in certain ways to help, particularly for families that can't afford a private education or are unable to educate their kids at home full time. Let's provide them with some options. And I think that aligns with what the founders intended. That's crucial. Now, how do you pay for it and who pays for it? I'd say I would propose that probably a tax credit might be a little, I'd prefer that over a voucher kind of system, but I think we should provide some benefit to people who choose to educate their children privately or in their home. It's crucial, and it's the future of our country. We've got to do it right.
Way to come in under the 2-minute mark. All right, Tina, you're up. Your thoughts on education and how your office it will affect.
So as I mentioned, I have 4 children, and we've used every type of education there was for our kids, depending on the need of the child. So I have 2 who went through public school. I have 2 that went to private school, and 1 who did a charter school for a time. And I even homeschooled for a year. I'm not sure I had the personality for homeschooling. So I'm an accountant. I'm not necessarily a teacher. My parents and both my sisters are teachers, so I respect teachers ultimately in this. But as far as the funding goes, a child is a child. Regardless of the type of education you go through, we should be funding the child and not necessarily the system that they're in. So I don't have any problem with the voucher system. I actually support that. I'm not a fan of the tax credit instead, because most parents with young children who would be taking advantage of this, they wouldn't be able to receive a credit until a year after they paid for the education. And most of the time, unless that's a refundable credit, which don't get me started on the difference between refundable and non-refundable and the problems with that. But I would say that it's too little too late on a tax credit, that I don't have a problem with the voucher system. How this impacts our office: we do have oversight, and any time that there is a financial transaction in the state, we have statutory oversight. Was it used for what the legislature intended, and was it given to the correct person? And the voucher system is going to be difficult to audit, and especially with the broad amount of items that money can be used for. When you talk about it being able to be used for sports outside of a high school athletics program or a junior high athletics program, now we're opening that gateway to a whole lot of different opportunities. And so the legislature didn't make that necessarily easy for the office for the oversight, because they've given us a whole lot of areas where this can go. But that is our job, and it is part of our responsibility to make sure that money is used for the way that it was intended.
I have questions that are piling up that are coming to me as we're talking. Let's see. I'm going to ask for a 30-second or a 40-second comment on this one. Your thoughts on the state of Utah roughly being 66% of it is owned by the federal government. What are your thoughts on that? Tina, you first.
I think it's abhorrent. As one of the reasons why we struggle so much to pay for our education in Utah is so much of 66% of your ability to pay for schooling is in the hands of the federal government. And that's not necessarily always someone who is working with the counties on how to use that land. I know we've tried multiple times through my time as a commissioner and council member is to bring in more local control over that. And the pushback is getting rougher and rougher. And right now, with what's coming across under Biden, you've got lifetime ranchers that are losing their ability to graze on public land. So that's shutting down a way of life in rural Utah that should not be allowed. It's time for us to push back. I think Derek Brown says it best: we're a sovereign state, and sometimes we need to act like it.
Maybe I should have given us a minute on that one. All right, Ricky, your thoughts.
No problem. And the federal government has clearly overreached for decades in this area, and they can do it. They've been doing it for a long time. That's why I really appreciate what House Speaker Mike Schultz has done. And he's a friend of mine and endorses me in this race. I appreciate the pushback that he has made a priority this year in the legislative session to push back against the feds, to put them on defense rather than coming in with the bully pulpit and the massive resources that they have and trampling, frankly, on the rights of the state. It impacts our education. The money that they should be paying, they often do not. And it's just the wrong thing to do. They need to put up, and if they're going to take the land, they need to pay for it. And frankly, they shouldn't have the land.
All right. Let's the next question. Is it fair for Trump supporters to ask if Trump actually won the election? Ricky, you first.
It's absolutely fair to ask that question. And as citizens, we should do all the research we can, but we should do research from multiple sources. We can't just go to our go-to source because that issue is far broader than just one source can provide. And so I think in any instance, including the 2020 election, we should take a holistic approach. We should dive in and we should listen to opposing sides as well as the sides that we care about. The key thing is we need to research and do the research ourselves. Having said that, that was 4 years ago. I'd much rather prefer to look forward to see what we've got going on, make sure our elections are run properly, that they're properly audited, and that they're transparent. And let's put that behind us and move forward and make this country the great country that it is.
Boy, I have got people that are watching this because I'm getting texted from people that I didn't know about that would be watching it. Okay, so same question for you. Tina,
Is it fair?
What's that?
Is it fair? Of course. Is it fair for them to ask? Of course it's fair. I think I taught my kids there's no such thing as an unfair question or something similar. So I was involved in the 2020 election. I was on the ballot during that time period, and I observed problems. So anytime that you've got an election system as large as the United States, of course you're going to have problems. The problem that we have in looking at 2020 is election law is written that you don't overturn it after the fact. If you don't interrupt a system during the process of the ballots going in and being counted, which is why you have a poll watcher system in the United States and the ability to watch what's happening, that's when the time is to stop an illegal event or something nefarious happening in your elections is as the process is happening. If you let it get past that point, then it's too late. And I learned that through that election year, and Marcy Campbell and I did a lot of research. We were contacted by attorneys looking into it, and we learned a lot through that process. So are there going to be problems in every election system? You bet. What we should be doing as a nation is finding where those weaknesses are, openly acknowledging them, and designing a system to mitigate for those weaknesses and add controls where needed.
Okay. All right. So next question, thoughts on immigration?
Me first?
Tina, yes.
All right. We're a sovereign country. We need to act like it. I can't go to any other country on the planet where I don't tell them who I am and where I'm staying and how long I'll be there. To come across the southern border without any kind of here I am or who I am is just wrong. It's just wrong. We are a sovereign nation and we should act like it. Also, I worry a lot about the human trafficking and the drug trafficking that happens across an unwatched border. We're seeing the impact of that on our streets and in our schools, and that's a problem. So I did see some studies this week that were released that the job increases in the United States over the last 3 years under Biden have been for non-citizen residents of the United States. And that's where 100% of the job growth has been. That's a scary statistic, especially for citizens.
Ricky, your thoughts on immigration?
Immigration is a huge problem for our country, and it's complex. Of course, we should have the Remain in Mexico policy enacted and enforced, and we need to secure the southern border. We need to secure all the borders, but especially the southern border. We have to stop that influx, and we have to do it quickly because it's just getting worse. At the same time, we should pursue alternative ways that are controlled and proper, but that allows people to come in the front door, allows people to come in in accordance with the law. We need to do that. That's our country. We're all immigrants to our country. That's how we started. So we need to show the strength, but then also help on the back end to make sure that that people genuinely who want to come in legally can do so, and it's not the hardest 10 years of their life trying to get in. The one challenge I have is with those kids that were brought across with no knowledge of their own by parents or others. That's a sticky situation. As an auditor, I don't know how to solve that one, but we have to consider the rights of the people.
Okay. Thoughts on the Second Amendment, including red flag laws? Ricky, you first.
Second Amendment obviously is crucial to our country. It's fundamental, and the thing that always catches me off guard a little bit is we talk about the right to bear arms to protect ourselves, but we often don't finish the reason why that amendment was put in place in the first place, which was not to protect ourselves necessarily from the bad guy, our neighbor, or someone down the street. It's to protect ourselves from government overreach, from government intrusion. And that is a crucial piece, a reason why I'm so supportive of the right to bear arms. I think it's a fundamental, crucial amendment principle upon which our government is based.
Tina, your thoughts?
I have a concealed carry permit and used it right up until the point that I got constitutional carry in the state of Utah. I own an AR-15. I'm a petite woman, and when I have a particular area that I run, and when I run, I carry it because sometimes there are more than just natural bears in that area, and I want to feel protected. So, and I also, having run for office several times, and sometimes this is not exactly fun, like I think it's Maple Leaf Girl 77 who says I'm human garbage up here on the screen. Sometimes I want to feel like, should I run into her, I would have protection.
Okay, so you guys are looking at something different than I am. So,
and I'm really sorry about that, Tina. That's not appropriate. I'm sorry.
I would not think that was appropriate, and I appreciate that my supporters don't do that.
Well, I'll tell you this. I am looking at a totally different screen apparently than you guys are, so I don't see it. So, you know what? Let's put it this way. Spoken for themselves.
Yes.
All right. Let's see. Next question. Boy, that would be fun to watch. How often will you meet with the public? And Tina, let's start with you on that. How often will you meet with the? Actually, it's a two-part question. How often will you meet with the public, and will you come on talk with John at least once a quarter?
Of course,
I'll receive that position.
I'll come on talk with John anytime you ask, John. It's been a pleasure to be here today. And this is one of the changes that I would make in the office. We haven't been, since COVID, the office hasn't been open during the legislative session in the Capitol, and that's going to change. So we will make that office open again so that you can ring the bell and the door will open and you could come in and make an appointment or speak with the state auditor or the state privacy officer at any time that you're at the Capitol. So we do meet, we still meet, and John does meet anytime anyone reaches out to make an appointment. It's just that open door in the Capitol that we're in the Senate building, so sometimes it's harder to find us. But yeah, I'll meet with anyone and talk with anyone. I do that now. Ricky mentioned that he answers his own emails, so do I. My phone number is out there. I think all 625,000 voters have texted or called me at some point in this process, and I appreciate that. So I expect that will continue.
Okay, Ricky, same question for you. How often will you meet with the public, and will you come on talk with John at least once a quarter?
I would love to come on talk with John at least once a quarter. Thank you. And just like I currently am as an elected official up in Weber County, it is always an open door. Whether you have an appointment or not, if I am available, I will absolutely sit and talk with you. It's the way I've run my campaign. I called over 1,100 voters so far now directly and personally spoken with them on my personal cell phone. And I think that's important to be available, especially when citizens have questions and they have concerns and they see something that doesn't look right. That's the whole function of the state auditor, is to get the transparency and to take those allegations and take a look and then respond back. And I think that's crucial.
Okay. Thank you. Next question for both of you. How much oversight do you believe the state auditor has? In other words, say you get a call from a citizen, or you believe there may be something of question somewhere in the state. What type of authority do you have to take action on that? And let's go for a 2-minute answer on that.
I believe I'm first. So
yes, Ricky, you're up. Sorry.
Yeah. So state auditor's office has subpoena power. And if it involves the spending of taxpayer dollars, the state auditor's office has full authority to go in and audit and check things out. One key thing about auditing is the concept of independence. As a CPA, I'm bound by the CPA Code of Ethics, which are actually baked into state law in Utah. And so I am bound to remain objective and remain independent. And audit, that's a best practice for auditors. Auditors, we observe, we test, and we report. We are not the enforcers. In other words, as soon as we begin to step across the line into making managerial decisions, we have then impaired our independence as auditors. And so really the main purpose of an auditor is to shine the spotlight or to shine the floodlight, to go in and evaluate objectively. And then we leave it up to the leaders of that particular organization, whether that be executive branch or local governments. And they're the ones that, and we can make recommendations, but they're the ones that implement. And that's a key core competency and requirement of auditors is that concept of independence.
Tina, same question to you.
That Ricky is right. We have subpoena power over every financial transaction in the state of Utah. We also have 3 people in our office that are full-time on the waste, fraud, and abuse hotline. Abuse is any time the money is used outside of the statutory scope. So we do a lot of investigations across not just is it being used, but is it being used properly? We do those investigations are typically deep and detailed over. We have everything as far as topic, whether or not it's being used properly as in the bond, whether it's a proper use of the bond money that a school would levy, or whether or not it is a legislative steering of a bid towards a favorable entity, or whether or not restricted tax funds are being used for their restricted use. So we go into a lot of detail in our investigations. That I'd like to say that Utah doesn't keep 3 full-time people busy, but it does keep 3 full-time people busy nonstop. And we look into a lot of things. Not everything is a finding. Sometimes we are able to go back to the person who made the complaint, explain the situation, and provide additional information. But this is also why the state auditor runs transparent.utah.gov, is we put a lot of information, since we have every financial transaction over from all of those 1,800 agencies, we have put it in a searchable database to start answering taxpayers' questions about how an entity is doing. We have everything out there from the breakdown of teacher salaries across the state to what they've done over time. And we start giving taxpayers the information they need so that they can also hold their government responsible and they can help us in our watchdog responsibilities.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Please forgive me. I got things coming at me, and let's go to the next question. All right. So here's a question for you that is coming to me on text. Do you guys have the ability to audit non-financial issues?
Yes, and that is what we're talking about with the statutory compliance and the performance management audits that we do. So that statutory compliance is exactly what we're looking at. The most, like I used the example earlier in the transgender bill, is the government agency actually following state code and implementing that policy as done as issued by the legislature. Same thing is happening starting June 1st with DEI policies across the state. We are checking for statutory compliance. I mentioned our tax commission audit. That is exactly what we were looking at. There are a lot of ways to collect the same amount of money when you're collecting tax revenue, but whether or not the law is applied correctly and you're getting it from the right people is a different question, and we do check on those things.
All right. I can't remember, Ricky, if I asked you that question or not.
No, not yet.
Fire away. Sorry.
All right. Yes, and Tina's correct. There are all sorts of non-financial areas that we audit. In fact, shortly after John Dougal got elected, I was sitting in church on a Sunday morning, got a call on my cell phone. I noticed it was him, so I stepped out, and he came up. There was a water issue up that was flooding several homes, and the citizens were not getting the answers they needed. And so I worked with John to help find the parties that were responsible. And he was very responsive. That's one example. Another one is the auditing of elections. Now, that is not in the purview of the state auditor's office. Right now, the auditing of elections falls primarily to the legislative auditor general. That was given to them by the state. Mike Schultz contacted me and said he wanted to conduct an audit of elections. I said, fantastic, please come audit me first. And we've had those. That's an excellent audit that they have done. That would be another example of a non-financial audit.
You may have a little answering to do with Jesus when you get on the other side.
Uh-oh. That's right. Yeah.
I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, next thing. Next question. And like I said, I'm getting a bunch of good questions from people that know me, that are texting me and on this, that I had no idea were looking at this. So should we audit elections is a question being asked. And should we audit elections? 1 minute for each one of you.
Excellent question. And
I think I'm first, Ricky. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that.
So, of course. And let me give you an example. And actually, it's the lieutenant governor has auditors in her office that have first crack at election audits, and their work in Cache County this past fall was very well done. And there were problems that were identified and corrective action was taken. And there were 3 employees in the clerk's office in Cache County who are no longer in the clerk's office in Cache County. And I appreciate the work that they did there. In my own county in 2018, we had a referendum that on election nights, they announced that it failed 96-4. An audit was done. It actually passed 54-46. And that was based on an audit that was done. There are time and place where it is appropriate. It is not first under the purview of the state auditor, but anytime that there is a problem that has been identified that hasn't been dealt with, then we do have authority to step in. We are always hoping that the first crack gets it and is taken care of at that point.
Ricky, same question
yes.
to you.
Elections should be audited, and every election should be audited before, during, and after. And that's currently what happens in accordance with state law. The Legislative Auditor Office conducts in-depth audits of elections every other year, every even year. The Lieutenant Governor's Office conducts oversight and election and auditing of the voter registration system and investigation into anomalies. And at the local level, counties are required by state law and in public meetings to conduct audits of elections before, during, and after each election on a variety of areas of equipment and processing. And in many counties, and what is best practice, other people are invited to come in and actually participate in the audit, particularly the Board of Canvassers who need to certify that audit. So elections should be and are audited by these various entities. If the legislature decides to ask the state auditor to come into that, you want an elections expert leading that audit because you want to have due professional care, someone who understands auditing and understands elections.
John?
So based on your response,
John, I think we need to add to that. The reason election the way election code is written in Utah, we still have poll watchers in Utah, and that is a form of audit. But that is allowing the citizens to audit it as the process is going on. So what has made that difficult in Utah of late, is a 3-week-long election day. And since we're only a week into this 3-week-long election day, I would like to say as a candidate, I find it torturous. But it is also torturous on poll watchers. So because it spreads out the time where you have to be there to actually be able to observe and to watch what's happening in the counting of ballots. So we need to go back to a way where poll watching is still possible. It is still in state statute, and it needs to be an option for citizens to be able to observe what's happening in their election systems.
Okay, that was 45 seconds. So Ricky, follow up.
Yeah, you bet. That's a great point, is the importance of poll watching. We worked in Weber County with our local Republican Party and the Democratic Party, and they actually set up a schedule. We provided them, this is before it was required by state law, but we provided them with a schedule of when we were doing different aspects of the ballot processing. And they actually had sign-up sheets with the party, and they had teams of people coming in throughout that 3-week period. And it was great. They were able to come in. I'd give them a personalized tour, and they could sit and watch as long as they wanted and observe. And that's crucial. Public oversight and viewing is important.
Okay, so I'm doing an audible right now, and I'm gonna do a further dive on this. So, as Ricky, you said that the state lieutenant governor has oversight of the auditing process on elections. Here's my question to you: should we also have a secondary person look at it, specifically the state auditor, because we don't have another individual out of it? And sorry, the most important, the most paid attention to position on the state level is the governor, and the lieutenant governor is picked by the person that will win the governorship. So my question to you guys is, what would it take for you to choose to audit outside of the lieutenant governor doing this? And I'll give you both 1 minute to answer that question. Ricky, you first.
Well, the different offices, whether it's legislative auditor, lieutenant governor, or the local counties themselves, take different aspects of the audit. And the lieutenant governor's audits are actually quite limited and in what they can audit. The state law limits that. However, if I saw a substantial evidence of fraud and saw, after talking with these other entities, that nothing was happening, that the folks that had the responsibility to conduct the insight and research, much like the LG's office did into Cache County, if I saw that was not happening, then that would be a time for the state auditor to step in.
Okay. Tina, your thoughts?
To make it a regular audit by the state auditor, what I would need is statutory authority for it to be a dual role. And that would be a change in statute through the legislature, which is possible. And they've given us lots of additional items to do, but that would be the first step in getting that done. I'm not opposed. This question has come up so many times during this election process that I think it's probably a good step in adding public assurance or positive assurance that what's happening does have dual control. In most systems, we design in accounting, and especially when we're dealing with other people's money. And in this case, we're dealing with other people's vote, which is just as important as their money. There's always dual oversight. So a dual action on this could be a great idea. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, so I'm going to pretty much just want a yes, no from both of you. If I understand through this conversation, like I said, the state auditor is not a position that I've paid a lot of attention to over the years. I've paid a lot more attention to it this year, and today I've learned a whole lot more about it. Okay, so my ignorance has been revealed today a little bit. But if I understood both of your answers today, my question to you was, can you guys go, I see something really questionable over here. I'm going to go audit. If I understood both of your answer, the answer was yes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So if someone comes to you and says, I have a question about just regular Joe citizen, do you guys have the ability to go, hey, Joe citizens, a bunch of Joe citizens or Jane citizens come to you and say, hey, I have questions on these elections. Do you, even if it's not a citizen, do you have the ability to just go, I have questions on the election, I'm going to go check it out and I'm going to audit it? Do you have the authority to do that?
Sorry, I'm a little distracted by, anyway. So the Maple Leaf Girl 7, D7, is there a way to
Okay, where are you guys seeing that at?
That's in the comments.
It's in a chat or something.
Yeah, and it's out of the side. So
Okay,
you're
hold
asking
on
if
for
we
a
can just
second.
go. So
Hold on
what
for
you're
a
asking.
moment. Okay, you know what? I've never even pushed the button on that one before. All right, so Maple Leaf. Let's see if I can get rid of
if you're
her
going to
on
have
this.
someone over here just insulting me, I would prefer it go away until we're done with
Yeah.
the debate.
I agree.
You know what? I'm just going to say, so that was not open for me until just now. You guys mentioned I've never even used it before. So supposedly I've blocked her. I am looking to see if there's a way that I have to get rid of it. Sorry, my producer has handled that stuff in the past, so I apologize. I wish I could.
So your question was, we have statutory authority to audit anything, which is yes. But you're asking in this case. So you have to remember that there is a statutory line of authority over elections in Utah, and the lieutenant governor is first in that line. So if there is a problem, we would refer it to them first for their ability for oversight. Ricky is talking about the OLAG. I don't remember seeing this in statute, but there is a chain of command that we do have to respect as in respecting the rule of law for how this goes. But if there still remains a problem or something that wasn't looked at, the state auditor has the ability to look at any of that. But you have to remember the line of authority. And like I mentioned before, if you want to make it a dual control or both people who have statutory authority over that, I think that's a great idea, but it's not currently the way it works.
Ricky, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. As much as we may feel that we have the knowledge and the ability to go in and audit, we've got to respect the law. We've got to respect those lines of authority. Doesn't mean we can't talk to them. Doesn't mean we can't collaborate and see what's up, get more information, see and offer how we can help. That's really important to have those relationships so that you can go to the individuals who are responsible and say, hey, I heard this. What are you going to do about it? And how can I help? That's good auditing. It's proactive, and it results in the best result, the best outcome for everybody. But no matter how passionate I feel about something, I'm not going to go across the line of the law.
Okay. Then I'm going to just ask a general opinion of you guys, and I'm going to give you 40 seconds to answer this. So first things first, excuse me, sorry. The question that I have for you is, should we continue to have mandatory mail-in ballots to the entire state? Ricky, that's you first.
Excellent question. And the state, so the reason we have mail-in balloting in the state of Utah is because of the Republican Party. In 2012, Thomas Wright led a fantastic effort to sign up every Republican that came to caucus for vote by mail. He did so because he knew if you vote by mail, voter turnout increases. So he put that into place, and it caught on, and the state legislature mandated it just about, I want to say 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, they mandated it. So it's required by state law. There's no perfect election system. Each one has its pluses and minuses and its weaknesses and strengths. And so it's really hard to say, should universal balloting be mandatory? If it's done right, great. And if the legislature feels so, awesome.
Okay, Tina, same question.
I think Ricky's correct. We don't set this policy, but I am not a fan. As much as I like Thomas Wright, I am not a fan of universal mail-in balloting. The next step that's required with universal mail-in balloting is making sure that the voter rolls are clean, that when redistricting is done, that those redistrictings are done cleanly, or you have problems. Our audit out of our office in 2018 showed this, that there's there is a lot of spillover into outside of a precinct or a district. And there is also the ability to send ballots to people who are not registered in a primary race, in a Republican or a Democrat primary. So there are mistakes that happen if those voter rolls are not kept on top of. That takes a lot of time and effort, which can be done, but we need to be acknowledging that those are problems and challenges. And we should have a discussion over how often those rolls should be cleaned, so that at least with state delegates, what I have seen is 20% move every year. So if you've got 20% of your voters moving every year, that means that you should be cleaning those rolls every year. So, or every 2 years. So staying on top of it, like I said before, I feel like a 3-week election day is absolute torture for a candidate. So I am not a fan of this system, especially right now as we're 1/3 of the way through it. But, so I think we could shorten the time period. The ability to do a mail-in ballot with an absentee ballot was there before. I was a fan of that and had used it when I was traveling. So I'm not necessarily a fan. I like the vote in person. It gave me a
Ricky, she took about a minute more than after the motorcycle went off.
Sorry.
About to put her in timeout. I don't know.
Hey, she's passionate about it.
You want another minute to answer that?
Yeah, that is okay. It's good to see passion, and it's such a crucial topic. The voter rolls are actually audited by federal and updated by federal law at least once a year at a minimum. The state legislature has put in laws, and lieutenant governors have put in rules that audits and checks have to be done actually every week by the county clerks. It is crucial. Tina's absolutely right. It is crucial that we maintain and scrub our voter rolls and make them squeaky clean, especially with the mobile citizenry. That's super important. And auditing that is crucial as well. I helped write legislation. I literally helped write the legislation that audits the voter rolls. It's done behind the scenes. County clerks don't know when they're being audited or which records they're looking at, but that is now in state law, and it's something I fully support.
Okay.
I think that goes to the ERIC system, and Ricky and I disagree on the ERIC system and participation in the ERIC system.
Okay. Ricky, I'll let you make a comment on that.
Yeah, we can jump in to talk about ERIC if we want.
Let's do it. Should we take 2 minutes on ERIC? Should we take 2 minutes on ERIC? Let's do an audible. Okay.
You bet.
2 minutes on audibling. I'm audibling, that is. So 2 minutes, your thoughts on ERIC. Ricky, go.
ERIC is a nonprofit organization that is owned and funded and operated entirely by the member states. Not any private money goes into ERIC. The sole purpose of ERIC is to identify voters who have voted in more than one state or who are registered in more than one state. They have some side things that they want to do that some of them that states can opt into, which include notifying people who are not registered to vote but are eligible. Utah has opted out of that and no longer participates in that aspect.
Opted out of ERIC?
No, opted out of that option to notify eligible but unregistered voters. ERIC is the only tool out there right now that allows us the ability to see if a voter is registered in another state. And as soon as something better comes along, I'm first in line to jump onto that. Right now, I haven't seen something that works. In addition, ERIC has zero access to the state voter records. They have no update access. They provide reports and then the state then takes those reports and does their own research. And that's according to the bylaws of ERIC.
Okay. You're pausing. Are you done with your thoughts?
Yeah.
Okay, because you had 40 seconds left, so I just wanted to make sure. To be fair, I want the audience to know I'm trying to be fair here. Okay, Tina, 2 minutes on ERIC. Your thoughts?
I agree with Judicial Watch on ERIC. I think that there are several federal laws on privacy laws, and as we mentioned before, the state privacy officer is part of the state auditor's office. Anytime you're sharing a voter's information at all, and especially if their non-registration is part of that through the driver's license division, there are federal laws that are opposed to that use. There's a reason why the red states are leaving ERIC, and when it's being used, what they call a blue wave and a red cloud. It's being used to register those who are not yet registered, and it's not just done through state reaching out. It's through private agencies that also have access to the information. I agree with Judicial Watch. I think we are one of the few red states left in it, and it's time for us to leave.
I will tell you, I hope you two and the audience feel that I'm trying to be fair with this. I definitely, and as a commentator on the news and a show host, there's been a number of times throughout this conversation so far, I've wanted to jump into show host and start giving my comment.
Way to hold it in. Way to hold it in, John.
Not gonna. You both call me out, and I still might say my show. Shut up. But I probably won't. Okay. All right. So let's go to another question that was sent over to me. Is it required to be a CPA to be the state auditor? If not, should that be a requirement like being a member of the bar for being an attorney? Also, as of fairly recently, I want to say it was about a decade ago, sheriffs did not have to be actually a member of law enforcement. They didn't have to pass through the state legislature did pass that. So my question to both of you, should a state auditor have to be a CPA? And I'm going to keep my opinion out of this. So let's go 1 minute. Let's see. Did I get rid of my 1 minute alarm? Shame on me for doing that. All right, there we go. 1 minute, and I think we're on. Who are we on? Who's up?
We're on Tina. So
Yeah.
John Dougal is an engineer. He is not an accountant. He doesn't have an accounting degree, and he's been a great state auditor. He brought in Transparent Utah. He brought in the performance audit team into the state auditor's office. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. What you're looking for in a state auditor, first and foremost, is the ability to manage a team of CPAs, accountants, data analytics. You have a team that you're oversight over, and you're setting the tone and giving them the tools to do their job and do it well. So this is a question that is for the future. For voters, it would be a change in state statute for that requirement to be there. I have not seen it as necessarily needed. It's only been in the last 25 years that a CPA has been part of this conversation. So as of now, I would say no. I think I'm trying to make accountants great again and bring accounting back to the role of the state auditor.
Okay, Ricky, your answer to that question.
Yeah, you bet. John Dougal has done a great job. I can only imagine how much better it would have been had he been able to bring the CPA background and all of the benefits of having a CPA in that office along with him. And I'll just tell you a couple of these things. CPA shows that you've passed a rigorous exam, that you have completed a number and amount of technical experience in the auditing world, and that you continue on periodically with pretty rigorous continuing education requirements. In addition to that, you are responsible to behave according to the Code of Ethics, which again is baked into Utah state law. Having that second level, having that second requirement in addition to your personal integrity, that provides an extra level of comfort for the citizens, knowing that their state auditor as a CPA must be objective and fair. I think it's crucial if the legislature were to have a bill to make that office be a CPA. I would support it, but I would recommend a delayed implementation so it wasn't appearing to be self-serving.
Okay, thank you.
So since we brought this up, so John is not a CPA, and Ricky certified as a CPA in the state of Utah, January 30th of 2024. So by my count, he's been a CPA in the state of Utah for the last 4 months. So how long should a person be a licensed CPA in the state of Utah in order to be the state auditor?
Ricky, I'm going to let you give about a 20-second comment to that.
Yeah, excellent question. CPAs across the nation have what's called reciprocity, where states will recognize CPA licenses from other states. And I have had my CPA license for 26 years in the state of California, where I earned it back in the 90s. And when I decided that I was running for state auditor, that's when I ported that license over. And so it was recognized. So the date says January, but I've been a CPA for 26 years.
Okay. Next
so if
question.
you're living in the state of Utah, why not bring the license over to Utah?
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
So if you're living, which you obviously have been as the clerk auditor in Weber, why not bring the license over before now?
Good question, John. Am I okay answering?
Oh, please do.
It's your show. Absolutely. The reason why is statutorily, a county auditor is not required to function as a CPA, whereas the state auditor's office does have to function as a CPA because they're signing the external audit report for the state agencies and others. And so as a county auditor, while I was performing the duties of a CPA, it was not statutorily required that I have the certification within the state.
Okay. So if you're doing the duty, if you're performing CPA duties within the state of Utah without transferring your license, I do believe that is a violation of the CPA code. You are not to act as a CPA within the state of Utah without the license in the state. And the state auditor's office has its own license. You would never operate under the individual license of the state auditor. You would always operate under the license of the office.
And if I were operating inappropriately,
in my career,
Tina, I'm going to step up and I'm going to say, okay,
right.
Let him answer, and then we're moving on.
Okay. If I had been operating in Utah under a CPA license that was not in the state of Utah, the Utah Association of CPAs would have brought me into analysis and would have removed my license. Instead, what they have done is endorsed me as the candidate, their preferred candidate for state auditor.
So the only one, John, I'm going to insist that I answer on this because it's been the primary point in Ricky's campaign that the only person exempted from needing a CPA in order to run for state auditor has been me, apparently, because in my 28 years, I acted as an enrolled agent. My specialty is tax, and so I didn't need it for what I was doing either, and neither did Ricky to be the clerk auditor in Weber. So let's talk about how much time you need to be licensed in Utah to be the state auditor. That is the question.
All right. So Tina, I was going to give you guys a chance to crosstalk. I'm about to put you in timeout. All right. Ricky, do you want to answer that?
The Constitution provides no requirements for how long a person is a CPA, licensed CPA, to practice in Utah. And the Constitution is actually silent on that issue. Right now, to be state auditor, you don't have to be a CPA. John Dougal has been a great state auditor. Ms. Cannon, with all due respect, you're no John Dougal.
Okay. All right. Well, let's put a lid on this. Okay. Next question. All right. Do you think I think I've already asked this, but I want to make sure. Do you think the auditor position should be an independently elected position? No, actually, I haven't. Sorry. I've been meaning to ask this. Do you think the auditor position should be an independently elected position or appointed by the governor? If so or not, why? I can't remember who we're on. I want to say, I think we're on Ricky. Ricky, go ahead.
Yeah, that sounds great. Absolutely, 100%. The state auditor should be an elected position accountable to the people. One of the key pillars of auditing is independence and objectivity. And if you are appointed by the very office or entity that you are auditing, you are not objective. So it has to remain elected by the people and responsible and accountable to the people. That's fundamental to auditing. It's a best practice, and it's also one of the key pillars of the AICPA's Code of Ethics: objectivity and independence.
Okay. Tina, same question to you. Do you think the auditor position should be an independently elected position or appointed by the governor? If so, either answer why.
Of course, it should be independent. The independence of the audit, as Ricky mentioned, is part of the CIA code. And the auditor's code. That's why I took the step from day one that I would also be independent, not just of the governor over which we audit, but also counties and state agencies over which we had audit. I did not solicit the endorsement of county officials over who we would audit as the state auditor, because it does create the appearance of a conflict. We do a lot of auditing of local governments, whether that be counties, cities, school districts, and even legislative oversight over investigations when an accusation is made there. So there, I was very careful to maintain the independence of the office, because it is not worth the shade that happens on even the appearance of a conflict in an audit.
Okay, beat the timer on that one. Wow, you guys are doing pretty good overall. Okay, so next
John, I'm just
question.
going to step in and remind you that I have another event.
When do you need to leave?
Yes, I have to be out of this room at 6. So
Okay, I promise you, I'm not going to hold you past. I've got one last question, and then we're going to give a couple minutes of cleanup. Fair enough?
Fair
Okay.
enough.
All right. Next question. The last question that I have for you guys. Let me see if I can find it. What changes would you make in the office, or do you see any concerns that you would like to make changes in the office? And let's start with Tina on that.
Well, oversight over 1,800 agencies with 45 people is getting a little stretched. So we're getting a little tight, and the legislature adds every year in our statutory responsibilities. And also, as we've seen with the transgender bathroom bill and the DEI legislation, our statutory oversight increases as the number of entities increase. The public infrastructure districts over which we have oversight are growing weekly, and it's becoming we're stretched. So keeping up on all of those responsibilities and making sure that our staff is fully trained to be able to handle all of those challenges is the primary responsibility. I also want to see us be able to add more and function to Transparent Utah. It's been fun as I've gone through this campaign process for suggestions from the public over what other improvements we can make to Transparent Utah. So I have I'm excited to be able to hit the ground running right after the election and start putting these things in place.
Okay, same question to you, Ricky, if you will fire. Let's see. Do you want me to restate that question by any chance?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Okay, so what changes, if any, would you like to make in the auditor's office? Do you have any concerns about the auditor's office?
I would recommend, it's similar to what Tina was talking about, and it's something that I've been talking about since January. Their local government division, I think they do a great job, but they're stretched. And I would increase the proactive cooperation and communication between the state auditor's office and the local entities across the state. People, as I've gone across the state, local finance folks have asked me, please, we need more frequent communication. We want to work collaboratively with your office in advance, and we want you to help us have that more frequent interaction, that more frequent voice. I brought that up to Mr. Dougal, and we've talked about it, and I have some specific ideas on how we can do that. Not saying they're doing a bad job, they're just stretched, and I think we can do it better.
Okay, all right, let's do this. We're going to go, unfortunately, because you need to make your time of being out of there by 6 o'clock, we'll go to 1 minute, and I think we'll have 1 minute and 20 seconds. We should be able to do 1 minute and 25 seconds for each one of you. I'm just going to say general statements, general answers, or make your pitch. I'm going to just say make your pitch. Ricky, I'm going to go with you first, and this will end it.
Hey, thank you. Integrity matters, relationships matter, and experience matters. I bring 30 years of audit experience and 26 years as an official certified public accountant to this office. I have the endorsement of over 200 individuals throughout the state who are people that you have elected, people that you trust, and they have in turn said, we trust that Ricky will do an objective job. Audits are not political weapons. Audits are precise financial x-rays that go in and identify areas of improvement. And I commit to you that I will be focused on being absolutely objective and independent and professional in executing my CPA skills and my auditing skills to make this office even better. Thank you.
Thank you. Ricky, thanks for being here. Tina, fire away. 1 minute and 25 seconds.
Well, I appreciate you hosting this today, John. It's like been pulling teeth to get anyone to host a debate for the state auditor. We're not that scary, as everyone can see. It was fun. It was a good conversation. You can see that there are areas where Ricky and I really agree, but there are areas where we disagree. And I think ethics is that primary one, and what the independence of the office means. There is a reason why I did not even ask for county or local government officials. When we do an audit of a local government, that opinion needs to be clean, and it should not be tainted for even the person with the concern over whether or not we kept our independence, and it should never be tainted by the request for a donation or an endorsement. I've enjoyed my time in the office. It combines two of my biggest passions: honest, ethical government. I'll end the same way I started. I have seen the impacts of lax financial oversight in my own community, and I would hate for that to happen anywhere else in the state. We first and foremost in local government do train local government officials. Our training is top notch, and we are award-winning for Project Kids and for the work we do in the office. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be there. It will be an honor and a pleasure to continue as the state auditor, and I ask for your vote if you haven't voted yet.
Ricky, give out your website, please, real quick.
RickyHatch.com.
Tina, give your website out, please.
TinaCannon.com.
Any other social media you want people to reach out to you, Tina?
Tina Cannon, Utah. That gets
Ricky?
me.
Ricky Hatch for state auditor.
Okay. All right. And that's on what platform, Tina and Ricky? What platform?
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of them are Tina Cannon, Utah.
Ricky?
The campaign is on Facebook. Other ones are Ricky Hatch UT.
Okay. I want to say thank you to both of you. Tina, it is now 5:59. I want to say thank you both for joining me. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I am going to both, I'm going to put you so you're no longer seen by the audience. You can stay on or you can go. I will be ending this conversation here in just a minute. I'd love to hear from both of you. But bottom line is, God bless you. God bless America. God bless Utah. Thank you for being here. And this has been Talk with John on Main Street Media, Utah. I also want to say a special shout out to K-Talk. Thank you for letting me, K-Talk, mention that this was happening. Appreciate you being there. Appreciate all of you.